Hello riders, this is Eric with Black Swan Odysseys, and this is the Bickleton Highway. If you're traveling from east to west through the state of Washington and want to stay off the main highways, this is the route to take. This particular ride is from Goldendale Washington to Mabton Washington, and it has a length of about 62.7 miles. What I like about this ride is the scenery, the topography changes, the road surface, which is good to great. Not as good as it was 10 years ago when I was first introduced to it. Then it was newly paved and it was like a racetrack. But today it's still good, but showing signs of wear. The topography is open plains, deep canyon curves, and some open desert areas with tumbleweeds. Riding from west to east, the first 16 miles is cattle range and wheat farms. As you approach Badger Gulch, which is a deep ravine dropping down 800 feet from the top of the gorge ridge to the ravine, you start into a series of curves that are long and sweeping. As you approach the bottom of the ravine, the curves tighten up. One interesting thing about this that you can do if you're with a group of riders is, because of the openness of it, you can send a rider ahead to the opposite side of the ridge and then film each other as you're riding down into the gorge. As you reach the bottom of the gulch, it flattens out and you ride through a small oasis which is fed by Rock Creek. At the back of the ravine is the bridge that crosses over Rock Creek, and the interesting thing is this is right in the middle of a hairpin turn. Then it's back up the other side of the gulch through a series of turns that are anywhere from 25 to 15 miles an hour. One point of caution is these curves are blind and against rock walls, and the rock walls tend to have small slides periodically, which throws debris down to the roads. Something that's not as much fun to find during a full lean on a motorcycle in a curve. Once back at the top of the ridge, the land becomes high desert with scattered ponderosa pines and sagebrush. There's few homes or farms in this area, and most of it's just open land for cattle range. The highway dips in and out of lesser gulches and ravines and is mostly straight with a few sections of spattered, easy sweeping curves. The midpoint of the ride is a small town of Bickleton. Bickleton has a population of 88. It was first settled by Charles Bickleton in 1879, and he built a trading post and a livery stable. In 1937 through 1947, a series of fires destroyed many of the town's original buildings. One of the remaining buildings, the oldest standing building, is called the Bluebird Inn. We'll talk about that one in a second. But first, the Market Street. We stopped for lunch at the Bickleton Street Market Cafe. And when you step inside, it's like stepping back into the 1940s, which is the time period the building was built. The building was actually built from reclaimed lumber from an old abandoned tavern outside of the city that was abandoned in the turn of the century. So you can imagine the lumber used to build this building is pretty old. The cafe/market is a one-room building with groceries lined on shelves along the exterior walls. The center has cafe tables, and there's groups of 3 that each group of tables can hold up to 10 people. So the oldest surviving building in the town of Bickleton is called the Bluebird Inn. It was initially built in 1882. The building was constructed by C.E. Flower, and it was started as a drugstore and a barber shop. It's changed hands and changed types of businesses over the years. It's been a saloon for the longest time period. And as a saloon, in 1903, they purchased a Brunswick pool table, and it is still in the saloon as of this day. East of Bickleton, the road continues and flattens out into rolling plains and dips in small valleys. This is where I saw the tumbleweeds. As you approach the edge of the Bickleton Highway, it comes to the top of the mountain range, and you have gorgeous views that look into the Yakima Valley below. Yakima Valley is a major source for wine and beer industry, growing hops and grapes. As you start down this descent into the highway, it makes a series of winding, sweeping curves that are open and allows you to take in the views. The highway empties out into groves of hop trellises. The town of Mabton itself is a small town built back in 1884. It started out as nothing more than a train stop for the Northern Pacific Railway. Nothing else really existed until later on, when the same C.E. Powers built a small store and warehouse in the town. The town eventually grew with hotel, railroad depot, schoolhouses, and other stores, and was incorporated in 1905. An interesting fact of the town of Mabton: a small ranch outside of Mabton was the home of the first confirmed case of mad cow disease back in December of 2003. Later, it was confirmed that that cow was purchased from Canada and imported into the U.S. Like so many other small towns, Mabton was destroyed by fires. One in 1905 burned the entire town down. Probably its biggest claim to fame was in 1911 when President Theodore Roosevelt made a short stop and made a speech from the railroad platform. In 1968, Mabton elected the first Mexican-American, Ray Cortez, as a mayor, and at the time was the only Mexican-American holding an elective office in the Yakima Valley. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And we'll see you on the next ride.